Welcome back to The Physician's Mind. I'm your host, Curtis Wilkerson. Today's guest is Dr. Koutures, a dual board-certified pediatrician and sports medicine physician based in Orange County, California. For over 25 years, he's cared for thousands of young athletes, from newborns to Olympians, and he's built one of the nation's most respected independent practices, ActiveKid MD. In this episode, we explore what it truly means to grow with your patients, to balance medicine and entrepreneurship, and how to shape the next generation of healthy, high-performing kids. Dr. Koutures, how are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So, sir, you've watched kids grow from newborns into college athletes. Can you share with us what inspired you to dedicate your career to both pediatrics and sports medicine?
I think it gives me the opportunity to grow with kids and when they're young, hopefully help their families develop good habits. And then when they're adolescents, connect with them. As we all know, adolescents can be somewhat difficult to connect with. But when they're passionate about a sport or a performance like dance, it gives them a chance to have points you can talk about. And the best thing is kids tend to wanna get better. Kids are on the upswing. They're growing, they're developing, and if we can instill healthy habits, instill the ability to continue to learn how to handle failure, then I think we've done our job.
Well said. And was there any defining patient or experiences that have shaped the way that you practice today? Can you share with us your routine, how you go about patient care?
You know, I have several patients who've had challenges, and when I now will see a patient who's going through, let's say, a difficult injury or maybe an emotional challenge, I'll look at them and say, "Look, I've had kids sit in the same seat you have who have dealt with some I'm not trying to minimize what you're going through, but I've seen kids at your stage with this type of injury work through it. Here's how they've done it." And I think it gives the family a bit of comfort to know we've seen this before, that they're not the only one going through it, and that we're going to use techniques that work for somebody at that development level, that age level, and we're going to build a team and we're going to build a platform to help them not just now, but hopefully in the future.
For sure. And that leads into the next question pretty well. You said that medicine is part care and part coaching. So, what do you mean by that?
When you're talking to an athlete, you can obviously sit there and look at the pathology sitting in front of you. You can see, okay, here's how the injury happened, and here's going to be our approach to it. But sometimes just look in their eyes, you can tell they're somewhat defeated. They're just looking for a pathway. They're looking for somebody to say, we're going to give you the way to get better. And you have to support them what they've done. Sometimes they think they're so far behind their peers. They're not able to go to school because they're concussed, or they haven't been able to go to practice because of their knee injury. Yet, if you look at them and say, last week you can barely get out of the couch. Last week you weren't able to get on your laptop and read, and now you can. We're making progress. And you just want to give them enough confidence to address the next couple days, the next week. So it is a bit of laying out the biomechanics, laying out maybe the treatment plan that includes therapy and medicines, but so much of it is just engaging with the kid, giving them the confidence that here's a roadmap, and if you follow this, it's going to help you get where you want to be.
100%, sir. And looking back, what were some of the toughest lessons that you learned from residency or from developing your private practice that have turned you into the physician that you are today?
I think you always look at those situations where things didn't go according to plan. You may have made a decision and you look back and say, I wish it came out differently. And early on, you start beating up yourself like, gosh, what did I miss? Why am I good enough to do this? Am I really dedicated to this field? Am I the right person? And then you realize we're human beings. We're going to make mistakes at times, and sometimes circumstances turn out differently no matter what the intent was. And if you try to learn from those and you take those experiences, yes, you mourn some of the decisions, you mourn some of the outcomes, but then you learn from them. And you also realize, okay, what have I learned that can help me in the future? There are times where I'll make a decision and I'll be driving home thinking, I don't like the way that turned out. I get on the phone and I call them and say, look, I'm changing my mind. And I wouldn't do that early in my career. Now I'm thinking, let me call that family. Let's see if we can maybe make a different plan. And most of the time, they're so happy that I thought about them. They're so happy that I continue to be part of their care team. it turns out to be a better decision. So I think the big teaching point is to never be too hard on yourself. And if you feel like you got to change what you've done, make a change.
That's great advice. That's great advice. So let's dive into the building of your practice, ActiveKid MD. What is it that made you step out and build your own practice instead of staying within a larger hospital system?
That's a great story. I was 1 year into practice. We were owned by, let's say, a medium-sized medical group. And that medium-sized medical group got sold to a larger medical group that went bankrupt within about 60 days of the sale. So my colleagues came to me and said, "Boy, you missed out. We all made all this kind of money on a potential sale. And then when it went under, we got the offer to buy our practice back for a very nominal fee." And I went from, gee, I missed out on the big opportunity to, at the age of 31, owning a small part of our practice. So the opportunity was kind of brought to me early in my career. And then I realized about 10 years in that if I don't develop this, it's not just going to organically grow. There's work that needs to be done. As you start to see larger groups around you, you have to make yourself relevant in the community. And that's where I really started pushing more the ActiveKid MD brand and making sure that people know what we do, that we want to serve families in our area, and we have to make them aware of what we can offer them and their families.
And we're seeing a greater incorporation of healthcare these days. What advice do you have for perhaps a medical student or a resident who wants to eventually own a private practice? What are your thoughts on the state of private practice medical care?
It's available. I know that you don't see a lot of those examples in your training. Oftentimes, you'll train in larger systems. You may even get the vibe that private practice is a dinosaur or it's onerous, you can't compete, or if you try, you're going to work 80 hours a week for minimal return. And that's not truly the case. So, if you're interested in doing, especially a small private practice, there are mentors out there. There are people who are doing it and doing it well, and they are experiencing the independence of thought. They're experiencing good relationships with their patients. They're getting time away to spend with their families. So it's a matter of finding those people and letting them mentor you. I think I have mentors who have helped me through this process. I have like-minded colleagues that will get on the phone and we'll talk. And sometimes the conversations are, "Hey, how did you do this?" Or "How do you handle this situation?" And having those guidelines, even when you've been doing this for 30 years, can be important. So develop your network, lean on them, contribute, but realize it can happen. And when it does, it's a wonderful experience.
And what is the hardest part of balancing your clinical work with your business, your entrepreneurship?
I think the hardest thing is when you open the door and you walk in that patient room, you really want to say, I got to stay focused on this patient and their family that have taken the time to come see me. So it doesn't matter that I'm having staffing concerns that day. It doesn't matter that payroll's due tomorrow. It doesn't matter that, hey, maybe we're not seeing as many patients today as I want. That has to be set aside. So when I walk in the room, I have a genuine contact with that family. I meet their needs. I've prepared before I walk in, and we put together the best plan possible because that's the core of what we do. We don't make those relationships, we're not going to grow, and we're not doing what we really should be doing anyway. So it's separating out when you walk in the room, you are focused on who is sitting right in front of you.
Absolutely. Now, can you walk us through from the beginning to now the big key points that you learned in building ActiveKid MD into a trusted brand? What did it look like for you?
I think it is really delivering what you say you do. So when you tell people we are available, if that means their child got hurt yesterday, Thursday night at a football game, and they call you concerned on a Friday, you do the best you can to get them seen as soon as possible. And when you see them, you address their needs. You ask them, hey, how can I help you get through this? And if you're not the only one who can help, you reach out to your colleagues. So again, you're building that team and you're living up to that reputation that we're going to offer your partnership. We're going to be a partner with you. There are a lot of things in medicine that are gray zone. People think, gosh, you come in with a certain illness or injury, there's one way to handle it. Not always. And what works for your family might be different from the next family. So often we'll offer options. There are certain cases, yes, there's about one way to do this and we're going to do it. but many times there's going to be opportunities to share, and I'm going to find out what works best for your family. And I want to make sure we do that in a timely manner. I want to respect your time in coming in. We also developed a telemedicine option. So I've got families who will travel maybe an hour to see me. And I'll really appreciate them taking that time, especially with Southern California traffic. And I'll tell them, look, in the future we can do this online. That will save you a trip. And that way it meets your needs and hopefully it will help you continue to work with our practice. So it's developing relationships, building trust, and meeting people when they need us.
Gotcha. Well, it's good to hear that you think that private practice is still possible today, because a lot of physicians may be hesitant to market themselves and go down that road. What do you think it is that you would tell those young doctors who are dreaming of starting that private practice before they take the leap, before they get it rolling? What would you tell them?
I would tell them to have confidence in themselves. I mean, yeah, I don't always like how I look on social media. There are times I will, do a video and think, wow, that doesn't look the greatest. And then I'll look at, well, but it resonated. People mention it, people talk about it. So you have to be able to have some confidence in your abilities. Sometimes you think, what am I going to share? We live in silos sometimes where we think everybody knows what we're talking about. We think this is just so common sense. Gosh, why doesn't everybody already know it? But then you make a blog post or you go ahead and make a video and people say, thank you. I didn't even know that existed or that changed how I do things. So you have to have faith that you've gone through training and you have experiences that are indeed unique and you have things you can share. If your focus is, how can I help people? If your focus is, gee, I've said the same thing 10 times this week, that would probably make a nice video. That will probably resonate not just with people here in my office, but people searching for information on the internet. So, have faith in what you've learned, have faith that you bring unique perspectives, and those should be shared. And those can actually help not just your immediate community, but the community at large.
Excellent, excellent. Now, before we move on to your experiences with athletes and working with kids, do you have any other thoughts on private practice? Any other things you'd like to share with the audience?
Again, I think it is interesting to look at private practice and say, all right, how do you handle the stressors the day to day? And I look at it this way. There are times where, yes, I have to make decisions and it would be nice if I had a committee to go to. But at the same time, if I have to make a decision, it's made and we move forward. And that flexibility is amazing. Case in point, I have a young man I'm going to see later today. Family messaged me yesterday, really wanting to get in. I don't have to worry about a central scheduler. I don't have to worry about, gee, is my staff going to let me start early? I just messaged him and said, we're starting early. Done deal. Because we know what the main focus is. It's dealing with our patients. And in a smaller practice, we also know that if we make that service, it's going to help us. So everybody feels good. So I think when you have a smaller practice and you're pivot and you're flexible, yes, at times you feel like you're being a bit overwhelmed with balancing the different demands. But when you have that family walk in and say, thank you so much for coming in early. Thank you so much for getting us in the same day we called. Boy, everybody's happy and it really fulfills, I think, the mission of what you're trying to deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. That freedom seems like a big plus. When you started medical school, did you know you wanted to do pediatrics? Did you think you were going to be where you are now, or was it completely different?
Okay, if you look at my high school yearbook, senior year, you put together your what are you going to do with your career kind of thing. And I think I put pediatric sports medicine. So I was probably that boring guy who kind of knew what he wanted to do. Okay, I did look at other fields. I remember when I was in medical school, I really liked my OB-GYN rotation. And I remember sitting in front of the dean, couldn't put together the dean's letter. And she said, gee, you're kind of torn between sports medicine and OB-GYN. I said, yes, I like both fields. And she goes, okay, I'm going to ask you one question and I think I'll help you out. Okay, go for it. And she said, where do you see yourself in 20 years? Getting up at 3 in the morning to deliver babies or being at the high school football game Friday night at 7? And I said, I'm going to take option B, Friday night football. And she said, there's your decision. So it was pretty well known this was what I was going to do. And I really feel like I was blessed to have the opportunity. And looking back, it was the right call. And I'm glad to say I'm doing it.
Awesome. So now you're working or you have worked with Olympians, you've worked with Little League kids. What is it in your experience that separates those athletes who thrive despite adversity versus those who maybe don't do so well?
And it's both the physical and mental preparation. And I tell our young athletes all the time, because I'll identify, let's say they've got a knee injury. And for them to be able to do their sport, they may have to show up to the field a bit early and do a warm-up routine. It'll give me this look like, really? I don't got time for that. I said, if you were to come visit our volleyball training facility, practice starts at 9. If you think our athletes roll in about 8:45, put down the coffee cup, tie their shoes, and go to practice, it ain't happening that way. You'll have folks showing up 7:30 because they'll have their routines. It's not all the same. Somebody may be on a bike, somebody may be in the weight room, somebody may be working with the athletic trainer. But because they've got that routine, they're able to practice at 9 o'clock. If they don't do that routine, they're not practicing at 9 o'clock. So the sooner you accept the fact that you may have to put in some additional work, you're going to thrive. And part of that is the mental work. Yes, they're driving to practice, they're worried about traffic, they're probably worried about getting there on time, but they're also developing the mindset. What is it going to take for me to listen to the coaching staff today? What are the goals we are trying to accomplish, that I'm trying to accomplish? And how am I going to evaluate that at the end of the practice session? So every time they show up, be it a practice session, weight training, or film, they're trying to get something out of it. They prepared ahead of time. They're going to do the work beforehand, and they're probably going to do the work afterwards. So once you accept the fact that just raw talent isn't going to make it, and that it isn't just show up and go, you're going to be ahead of the curve.
Boom. Well said, sir. Well said. Now, what are some of the lessons that you like to teach your athletes about toughness without pushing them to a point of overtraining or injury?
I will tell them flat out, yes, there is hard work, but there's also time for recovery. So if you're telling me you're going 7 days a week hard, we probably have to have a discussion. I want to make sure you're getting at least 8 to 9 hours of sleep. So we talk about sleep early and often. And I'll tell them, when they ask me, well, should I be doing recovery? Should I be doing ice bath? Should I be doing red light? And I think those are all good modalities in their place. My first question I'll ask is, are you getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep? Because if you have to drive 20 minutes to get to the red light therapy place, it takes an hour to get the therapy, 20 minutes to drive home, and as a result, you're now getting just 7 hours of sleep. We're missing out on something. So I want to look at the basics. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting the right nutrition? Are you giving yourself the opportunity throughout the day to get appropriate snacks? Are you just kind of getting your 3 meals and going? So if you're not taking care of the basics, all the other stuff isn't as important. So yes, you should work hard. Yes, you should engage yourself physically and mentally in the activity you're doing, but then support yourself on the downtime, be it the sleep, the nutrition, and the appropriate recovery. And then go out and have fun. The day off, go out with your friends, go have an experience, play a few video games, do your thing, because those days are key.
And sir, you've been working with USA Volleyball for nearly 20 years now. Can you share with us some of the most valuable experiences you've had along that journey? What has it been like working with those high-level volleyball players?
It has been an amazing experience. The volleyball community is a gracious community. They are very appreciative of what they get. It has been amazing to watch 20 years. It means I've got athletes who came in our gym at 22. Now they're coaching. Now they've got their own kids starting to play in the volleyball pipeline. That's been pretty cool. I've had the pleasure of taking care of the athletes, and now they bring me their kids. That is really pretty special to have those experiences. Obviously, to have worked with them at the highest level, to been at the Olympic Games, to be on the podium, well, next to the podium, as they are standing on the podium receiving medals, that's a pretty amazing experience. But to know the process that went through it and to even see afterwards, they've gone on to develop their own careers and families outside of volleyball. The people I've met, the colleagues that I consider not just colleagues, but trusted friends, trusted mentors, that's been the best experience. The building of the team behind the team to help those athletes and just to become, I think, a better clinician, be able to walk in a room and to say, look, here's how I've seen some of the top athletes work, and here's how we can use those experiences to help you out.
And that sounds awesome to be present at the Olympic Games. What was it like being behind the scenes, working as a part of the medical team? What were some of the coolest things you experienced?
Before I went to the Olympic Games, I was told, number one, you're going to have your Olympic moment. You're going to get to the games. At some point, you're going to realize you're there. So I kind of put that in the back pocket. And 3 days into the games, well, games hadn't started yet. We're in the village. I'm going to go for a run. It's just, I get some free time. So I'm running, and everybody hears about this runner's high. Suddenly I get the runner's high, and I realize I am at the Olympic Games. I am running in the Olympic Village. We are going to start the Olympics in 3 days. That was my Olympic moment. And from there, it was just go. I was covering indoor and beach volleyball and table tennis. For some reason, they wanted indoor volleyball to start at like 11 o'clock at night sometimes, and they wanted beach volleyball to start at 8 a.m. So a lot of times, that bus was rolling into the village at about 2 in the morning, and the alarm was going to go off at 7 in the morning. And you just went with it because you were at the Olympic Games. And the energy from the fans, the energy from the players just kept you going. So for 2 weeks, it was just, okay, let's roll, let's do this. And we had the privilege of going from opening ceremonies to the final day. People say, do you have much free time? Nope, because we went to the gold medal match with both men's and women's indoor, men's and women's beach. As a result, there wasn't much free time, and I was totally proud of that.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Sounds like a really cool experience. So another thing that you've been involved with is concussion care. You also
Yes,
helped found the Orange County Concussion Consortium. Did I say that right? Consortium?
you did. It's a lot of words there.
So what problem were you trying to solve with that group when you started it?
Coordination of care. We wanted to make sure we had like-minded individuals who wanted to serve families with concussion throughout our county. And Orange County is a pretty good-sized county in terms of both population and physical size. And we know when you're dealing with a concussed child, you don't want to be driving an hour or two if you don't have to. So if we can look at the north part of our county, the south part of our county, the central part, and find people who will communicate, find people who have experience and a passion to deal with concussion, we can deliver that care relatively close to the family, reducing the drive, reducing the symptom flare that's going to come up from being in the car. And it was also really cool to be able to meet people face to face. And we've texted, we've called, we've messaged. But when you meet them and you see what they deliver, it gives you a chance to step in a room with a patient, go, I'm going to refer you to Dr. Patel. He's absolutely amazing. He may overwhelm you at times, but you're going to get this experience. And when we're done, we're probably going to talk, not behind your back, but you're going to get that coordinated care. And it's increased our ability to deliver care. The confidence in the family's gone through the roof. It's been able to just build the community of individuals who deliver concussion care in our county.
That's awesome. So, Dr. Koutures, I'm sure at the beginning of your career, you had some big ambitions and, obviously large scale goals to have accomplished what you've done now. But for the younger listener who's maybe early on in the career, who's very ambitious and wants to achieve such great things as a physician, what advice would you have for them as they begin to address the gap between where they are now and where they want to be? What tips would you want them to know as they embark on the journey to excellence?
Enjoy every step of the journey. Realize that sometimes it's linear. You do one thing and the next opportunity presents itself. Sometimes it is not. You'll have periods where, gee, am I progressing at all? Or are things growing? There may be opportunities that will come up that are pretty obvious. Yes, I should probably go into that area. I should probably pursue that. You'll develop kind of a sixth sense after a few years of, okay, this opportunity may sound good, but may take a lot of time and may not be where I want to be. And let's not forget, make sure you take care of yourself and your family. We all struggle with, okay, I'm going to have to take some time away from family perhaps to go give this talk or to go cover this game. How can I best balance those demands? When my kids were younger, sometimes I would take them with me. Now that they're older and in college, they're not around as much, but I had an opportunity in August to go give some talks in Seattle, and I took 2 out of my 3 kids. They served as volunteers, and it was a great experience. So, as much as possible, try to integrate your family in what you're doing. And at times, if you have to make a decision, gee, do I go pursue an extra opportunity, but I really feel bad about not being with my family? Take time for that family because before you know it, your kids are perhaps grown and you want to have those experiences to remember and those experiences to build on the future.
Well said. Great advice, sir. On the topic of family, do you have any advice for the importance of choosing the right spouse when you're working in the medical field?
You better believe it. I have a loving wife. She's also in the medical field as a nurse. So our kids sometimes will come home and hear us comment, shall we say, on the state of medicine and our days. But it is amazing just to have somebody who, first of all, shares love for you, can understand the demands, can understand sometimes when you come home and you're a bit on the quiet side or maybe distracted, that you're not being rude, that you may be still trying to process your day. So that is absolutely important. It's important to have that open communication. Sometimes it's nonverbal. Again, sometimes you just need a few moments to cool down. And then when you're ready to talk, just to have that open mind. Also, a spouse who knows the importance of exercise, the importance of taking care of your spiritual needs, making sure every so often there's a good meal on the table. We try to do that for each other. So, yes, having a loving, trusted relationship that can support each other is absolutely important, absolutely vital.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So these last four questions here are designed to really get into your mind, the physician's mind. First one, after 25 plus years, what is it that still drives you every day as you enter the clinic?
Just to try to connect with people, to try to get them to a better place than when they walked in, to address their needs, and to hopefully make a positive impact. And if I can't be the one to do it, can I call a colleague? Can I make sure again that we're collaborating to do that? So that when I look back at the day and I'm doing my notes, all right, there was a touch point there. Okay, that was a point that I was really glad. Oh, I forgot to order that lab. Let me make sure I follow up on that. So it's not just the mechanics of finishing the day, but did I really make contributions that are going to help people in the long term?
And being a pediatric physician, how has being a father and a family man influenced the kind of doctor that you are?
It's been a fascinating journey. When you go into being a parent, I think you have these notions, I'm going to do it this way. And kids have a wonderful way of hitting you upside the head and changing the plan on a regular basis. In the sports world, I think we in the pediatric sports realm sometimes will talk about the pressures on parents. And once you go through it, you can see a little bit more where it's a challenge. And I like to think I've got a little bit of knowledge in the field, but there were times my kids would come to me and, oh, I got to play on this extra team because coach wants me to. And I'm thinking, you're already playing on one baseball team. You've got off-season football. Why the heck would you want to add a third experience? You're trying to keep up academically. But then I go, wait, if you don't, is it going to be a negative perhaps on your ability to play varsity? So you see things a bit differently. I think you're a bit more understanding. When the parent comes in the past you might have thought, gee, what are they thinking? This kid's on three teams. And then you realize, wait, there are some pressures that you never wanna give your kid less of an opportunity, so you're a bit understanding of that. At the same time, now that my kids are in college, they've been through high school experiences, they've gone through injury, and, they've sat and told, "But today's the biggest game." Okay, I get it, but now I fast forward 5 years. If I were to call my son and say, "Hey, remember when we held you out of that game? What game was that?" It's past. So I have a better perspective of what's this gonna mean in 5 months? What's this gonna mean in 5 years? And if there's a chance, okay, this kid can play, and the injury's probably not going to get him so much to the point we're going to worry about it in 5 months, we let him play. But it's the kind of injury where we may still have to deal with it in 5 months because it got worse. I may make a different decision. So having kids has given me, I think, a longer term perspective, but also more understanding of the pressures that families have on them.
Absolutely. So what do you think the legacy of Dr. Chris Koutures is going to be? What do you hope that your patients and the next generation of physicians will take away from the work you've done?
Hopefully that he cared. Hopefully he put in an honest day. Hopefully he was a good team player. Hopefully he listened. Hopefully he tried to address needs, came in prepared, did the work afterwards, and was able to address both the needs we brought to him as a pediatrician, but also as a sports medicine doctor. and hopefully allowed us to be part of that journey. We partnered with us so that we could do the best we could to raise our kids. And if I'm doing my job right, maybe some of those kids bring me their kids. That would be a pretty honest legacy. And if my wife and kids agree with that, then I've done okay.
Amazing. Amazing. Finally, sir, if you could leave one message for every young athlete and doctor or medical student who's listening right now, what would it be?
You're not doing this alone. If you think you can do this by yourself, good luck. Don't be afraid to build a team. Don't be afraid to be part of that team, contribute to it. But just like, most sports are team-based, most of our learning process involve team-based approaches. So is your life approach. You surround yourself by people you trust, contribute, don't just take. And if you do that, it'll enrich your life, those around you, and it will make your experiences just that much more vivid. So don't do this by yourself.
Great, Dr. Koutures. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you again for your time, sir. And folks, you've been listening to The Physician's Mind. Thank you so much and continue to strive for excellence.